this radio station.
Welcome to the Locker Room, where this morning we'll unlock the best in the sports world. Let's go to the studio with the Minister of Sports, Minister Darrell Natil.
Good morning. How you guys doing out there today? Hope everybody's staying safe. I know I say this every week, but I have an incredible show today. And I'm in my feelings because I got a couple of my good friends that's on, and they have some incredible testimonies. You know, back in February, I had a show where I had Even Holyfield was in town to do a boxing match, and he and his staff came in to the station and met a young man. Well, he's kind of young. He's a year older than me. His trainer, Mr. Termite Watkins, and immediately I attached myself to his spirit, man. Great man of God. So today, he has an incredible story for you. I have on the line Mr. Termite Watkins. Termite, welcome to the Locker Room.
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Man, how are you doing?
God is good. I'm here, and I'm doing great. I'm making a good comeback, and of course, as you know, I just fought the fight of my life, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Mm-hmm. Man, I am doing good, and I'm sitting here with my beautiful wife.
Hey, Cindy.
Cindy.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Hey,
great.
Listen. Let's give the listening audience a little background on who Termite is. Termite's from Houston, Texas. He was a boxer, a lightweight. You turned pro May 21st, 1974. You beat
right.
Cesar Cortez. You knocked him out in the first round. That was a great start for you. You had 61 career wins, 42 by knockout, 19 decisions, and only 5 losses. Right now, you're training Even Holyfield. You have a gym there in Houston, and I think the last time we talked, I told you that in November, I'm in the Texas area. I go to Dallas every year to see the Dallas Cowboys. But maybe I'll stop through Houston. Yeah, I said Cowboys. Maybe I'll stop through Houston on my way next time and come by and give you guys a holler. But
I hope you do, and dinner's on me.
All righty. I like some of that good Texas Angus.
Man, we got it. We can get a big ribeye. We can get us a good ribeye and a baked potato, or we can get us some good barbecue. Whatever we want, we can do it.
First of all, I want to say my producer across from me is also told me to tell you hello. You met him when he was here at the studio. We all were pulling for you. But a couple of weeks ago, I happened to see a Facebook post from your Facebook page, but it wasn't you posting.
Yes, sir.
It wasn't you. It was Cindy posting. And immediately my heart went into my throat. Okay, you went to a trip to Dallas, and coming home, you began to experience some stuff. Cindy, tell us what happened when Termite came home.
He came home. He started feeling achy one day. Thought he just did too much. The next day, it was worse. It was like, well, maybe I have the flu. We put him in bed, put him in isolation because we knew about the virus. Didn't think it was bad. We thought it was a flu. Next day, he started running fever. So we called, got the test, got him tested. And then just every day he got worse, a new symptom. After that, he started feeling nauseated. The next day, throwing up. The next day, on Tuesday, by the time Tuesday rolled around, which was a week, he was so bad, he started feeling the shortness of breath, and his doctor sent him to the ER. And so I took him to the ER. So within a week, he was in the hospital. Now, they did send him home for a day after that. The test had not come back positive yet. Then he was so bad the following day, I had to take him back again. And then by Friday of that second week, that's when he called me from the hospital bed because I couldn't go in the hospital. And he said, I've got bad news. I'm just feeling so bad. I'm not getting better. And the doctor and the nurse were in the room, and they were telling me the next step was the vent. So that was the hardest day ever. So I had to say goodbye, kind of, and not knowing how he would do. So he he was there, but he was very, very sick, and in one sense, I didn't want him to have to go on the vent because I knew people were not doing well after they went on the vent. But on the other hand, I knew it would help him. It would do the work, and the body, could rest. And I knew in my faith that, God would heal him, and so I had to make that phone call, and we had to, just trust the Lord.
Daryl, we had to say our goodbyes, and we both. If you hear me hacking, I've still got pneumonia.
That's
in
no
my
problem.
lungs.
That's no problem, sir. That's no problem. That's no problem.
But we had to. We had to say our goodbyes, and we both thought if there was the chance that we would never see each other again. Of course, I thought there's a good chance I could die, which I knew there was, and she knew there was a good chance I could die because of the ratio of people that come off the vent that don't come off the vent, that don't make it.
So he said, I have bad news, and I said, what? And he said, well, I might have to be put on the vent, and what might happen. And just my heart and my mind and my spirit were kind of warring against each other. And I said, well, it's going to be okay. You're going to be all right. God's going to heal you. We're going to get through this. And I said, you just have to keep fighting until they put you on the vent. And after they put you on the vent, it's going to do the work, and you're going to get to rest. And he said it again. He said, but you know what might happen. And I said, yeah, but, God's going to heal you. And, I just said, I love you with all my heart. I mean, what do you say? It's your last words, possibly. You say, I love you with all my heart. And he said the same thing, I love you. And he was just so tired. He just said, I just don't think I can do this anymore. And then we said goodbye, and I asked the nurse if she could call me before they put him on the vent, and she said, I cannot promise that. And sure enough, just a little bit later, the doctor and the nurse had to put him on the vent because he was coughing so hard and he was gasping for air and could not breathe. Apparently, the coronavirus gets into the lungs and turns that mucus into something like cement, the doctor said, and it just keeps them from being able to breathe. But, and it was just touch and go for about 2.5, 3 weeks. And, there was just every little thing was just any minor negative thing was just crushing because he was already as serious as you could get. But God, God chose to keep him alive and, healed him. And so he is good now. He has to build up his endurance, and he has to do his breathing exercises. And so there was just the waiting is the hardest, So, but God is faithful and was able to, of course, to heal him and keep him well enough to live.
But the question I want to ask you, not to take you back through it again, but just to show the magnitude of this miracle. What all of, I was reading the Facebook posts every day. There was a number of things in his body that was failing, and I was very afraid that he wasn't gonna make it, because one day it was the kidneys, then it was the lungs, then it was the blood pressure and the sugar. So many things, were going on in his body. What actually was going on during that time?
Well, his oxygen, because he couldn't get the oxygen, that he needed, even with the ventilator, it's still, the oxygen could not get to the organs like it should have been able to. And so because of that, then it did start out as the kidneys started doing, really bad, and the levels would go up, and he almost needed dialysis. And then he went into AFib, and his heart started pumping too. It was like he was running a race, they said. So they said, they had to put him on the medicine for his AFib to get his heart rate to come down. And then they started talking about his liver. His enzymes were going up. And then they started talking about him bleeding, because the liver is what clots your blood. And I was just thinking, oh my goodness, all these different organs. If the organs fail, then you got some problems. And then, he was on the feeding tube. And the feeding tube, the food that they put through the feeding tube made him hyperglycemic. And so he had to be put on insulin. And of course, his lungs, at first they put him on the maximum that the ventilator will work, and then they start trying to pull it down.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just every day they would bring it down, and sometimes they'd have to bring it back up and bring it down, and one step forward, two steps back, and it was just gut wrenching every day. Every time I'd hear something negative, and then he was able to get off the vent after 2 weeks, but he wasn't quite. He just still was working too hard. They said it was a little too soon, and so when they told me he had to go back on the vent, I mean, gosh, that was just devastating again. But he only needed it for another couple of days, and so when they took him off, we were all surprised that it took him off so quick. And when they took him off that second time, he was back. When they took him off, they pulled that sedation off of him and lowered it and took him off sedation, and they were able to take him off and extubate him and take all the tubes out. It was like he just woke up and was okay. I called and I said, how's he doing? He had a breathing trial where they just pull it off a little, but they keep the tubes in. And they said, oh, well, we've already extubated him. He's in the room talking to the nurses.
Get out of
and
here.
I was speechless.
My God.
I was like, what?
My God.
And that was a great day. That was
And
the
that's
next
what I
day.
was talking about was my God.
My
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
Termite.
So it was a wonderful feeling.
Termite, the whole
Yes, sir.
time that you're laying there, do you know exactly this is a crazy question. You were fighting for your life. So you were fighting with using your faith and your mental, because you couldn't do anything with your body. So you had to use that faith, right?
Laying down, yes. Once they put me under, I don't remember anything, but I do remember going into it.
Mm-hmm.
I just had faith.
Mm-hmm.
And then coming out of it, I was, I really wasn't sure what to think.
Mm-hmm.
Was already in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
But
He only thought it had been a day or two, and it had been like 3 weeks.
Wow.
He's like, where am I?
Daryl, the real hero in this story is, of course, number one is God.
Mm-hmm.
God is the one that pulled me through it, and I don't want to take any credit there, because without God, this would have I wouldn't be sitting here. Mm-hmm. There's so many. I think they say, what is it, honey, that 80% don't make it off the vent.
Wow.
And at that time, I found out later that it was 90% did not make it off the vent. Mm-hmm. But they started him on that the 3 different medications that they said, were helping. But we do glorify the Lord for his healing.
But the real hero, of course, number one is God. And, God likes to be magnified. He likes to be the Lord of Lords and King of Kings, and he likes us to realize he's in control. But then the next hero is my wife.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
When I know how hard it was for me to say goodbye, because I thought there was a good chance of dying, and I knew that so many other people were dying that went on the vent and that were getting the disease, and they were dying. And but then I look back and I've asked her a lot of questions. Oh my goodness, she couldn't come in the hospital because they wouldn't let her. Mm-hmm. And so here her husband's in the hospital without her, and she has to drop me off, hug my neck, say goodbye, knowing that we may not ever see each other again. Mm-hmm. Drive home, and then be housewife, mom, business person, prayer warrior, spiritual leader. But she did such an outstanding job. We got people saying she should put her text in a book.
Yeah,
and
she definitely have to.
People were moved. Mm-hmm. Yeah, people are contacting me saying, because of your wife's faith, I've regained my faith. Mm-hmm. And so God did get to be the hero all the way around. And I asked her, I said, and I'll let her answer this, but I asked her, I said, how did you do it? You know, how did you keep the faith? I don't know if I could have. I would like to think I could, but I don't know that I could have kept the faith. And I asked her, how did you do it? Because everybody was calling me, telling me how strong she was. And what did you tell me, honey?
My mom has taught me from, when I was a very little girl to just run to the Lord for everything. And I've learned that, when I got off the phone at that moment when they said they would have to possibly put him on the vent, I thought, well, on one hand, I have my thoughts and my flesh and my heart. Everything would fail me. My heart and my flesh were failing me. I could not. There was not hope on that side, but on my other side was the Holy Spirit. In the other hand, and I know that all those other things have to line up underneath your Holy Spirit.
Absolutely,
because God lives within us, and that is the strength of our life, and He is the one I have to trust and believe in. And I know God can heal. I know He could heal Termite.
Yeah,
there's not a doubt in my mind.
Absolutely,
because of what I know, and I believe in the Almighty God that He is Jehovah, the God that heals us.
Yes, ma'am.
And I know
Preach.
that. So I had to line up my flesh and my heart to believe and trust in the Lord, whether they wanted to or not. And then I just continued to believe that God was going to heal him.
But check this out.
She's a rock.
Check this out. My next guest is on the line, and I just realized he's calling in from Texas himself. Orlando Gunn, are you there?
Good morning. How y'all doing?
Good morning, Orlando. I have Termite Watkins on the line. He's the trainer for Evan Holyfield, a boxer, and he just he just recovered from COVID-19. He's home now. You want to say hello to him?
Hey, good morning, Mr. Watkins.
Hey, bro.
Definitely, we want to make sure you're in our prayers. Hope you're doing well, brother. And if you got any words of encouragement on how to deal with this epidemic or pandemic, definitely, let us know how it's been for you and how you made it out.
I think you're calling in.
Hello and good to...
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
First of all, hello, and good to meet you through the phone. My words of advice would be, not everybody agrees with our government and all that kind of stuff, but they're a step ahead of us on this, on the studies on this virus, and they are a lot smarter than us. Whether we like it or not, they are, and that's why we're dependent on them.
That's a good word there.
And so wash your hands, cover your face. Do the things they tell you to do, and you have a better chance of not getting it. And I'm going to tell you from experience, you do not want it.
Orlando, where you calling from?
Sir.
Where you calling from, Orlando?
Sir.
What city you in right now?
So I'm here in Austin, Texas, and it's funny. You can Google what cities are the best to be in during a lockdown, and Austin's in the top 10. And I think it's because a lot of people still are going outside, and there's a lot of greenery that they can do, trails, parks, things like that. And so people are still operating as though there is no pandemic. The state's about to open up officially. I think either today or on Monday. So it's just been weird. People are trying to use social distancing, but at the same time, there's traffic back now. So now I know people are not doing what they're supposed to do.
Okay, here's what I'm going to do. You have your own podcast, right, called Unbecoming, right?
Unbecoming Lifestyle, yes,
okay.
Sir.
What I'm going to do, I'm going to connect you with Termite. Maybe you can have him on your podcast to finish getting his word out. Hey, Termite, I appreciate you and Cindy from calling and telling us your story. I'm sitting there with tears in my eyes. On the way to the station, I knew I was going to bawl like a baby. But I'm going to tell you something, bro. I love you, man. And the day I met you, man, your spirit and my spirit connected. I thank you for your call, and I'm going to keep in contact with you guys.
All right, thank you, and remember this.
Uh-huh.
Our God is still in control.
Absolutely. One love, brother.
Amen.
Bye-bye.
All right, goodbye. Orlando.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hey, man, you're not a stranger to the locker room because on my very first show, you were on my very first show, and everybody know you played for LSU, and we had a thing here about LSU and Clemson, and guess who won the game? LSU.
You already know who won the game.
So I promised you I was going to bring you back on the show. So let me give the folk a little background about you. You know, you're from Lanier High School. You work at Lanier High School in Austin. You're from Parker Heights, Texas. You walked on at LSU in 2007. You won a national championship. In 2010, you were the Male Student Athlete Volunteer of the Year. And see, that's when things started to change in your life. When I met you in Miami, you had so much stuff going on. But there's a story to the story. Let me tell you something, bro. You came from Texas to Miami, right? Guess where I came from? I came from Austin, Texas to Miami. I told you our story is parallel. I was living in Jollyville, right outside of Austin, and I was trying to get a grad assistant job at the University of Texas. I actually interviewed with Fred Akers because I worked out with Eric Metcalf and some of the guys that were there then, and I didn't get the job, and I ended up moving to Miami. And listening to your podcast, a lot of the things you experienced in Miami, I experienced also. So I want to give you a little time to kind of tell us what happened. You know, you were working for the Dolphins. You worked in Central Florida, UCF. You've been around. So tell the folks a little bit about you and your story.
Yes, sir. You know, you hit it right on the head. You know, back in 2010, that's kind of when I graduated, and I was trying to do my NFL Pro Day. You know, and as a kid, that's the aspiration I had since I can remember, you know, playing Madden. Playing Madden as a kid, I used to, you know, I used to be one of those kids that would get upset and throw the controllers down if you lose after I played my dad. And so we'd play every other night. And so one time I finally got to play my dad, and I finally beat him. You know, I did a little running back screen with the Panthers, hit the little spin button a couple times, broke a tackle, scored a touchdown, and I knew that's what I wanted to do next. It's crazy. It's just a video game, but as kids, certain things impact your life that could really, you know, I guess lead your path in a way that God may or may not have intended. And so that one instance, that one piece of victory pretty much set the path or the track that I was on from that moment ever since. And so, you know, went to LSU pretty much on a whim. A friend of mine got into LSU. I had applied to the University of Georgia. Miami was private. Florida, never heard back from. Florida State said maybe. And then University of Texas, you had to be top 10% to get in. I was top 11% in my class.
Wow.
So they wanted to walk on as well. I was like, nah, that's not the best move right now. And Florida State said, well, you can come here, but you got to go to an off branch to get in. And so it just looked too risky for me. And so a friend of mine was from Louisiana. He was my high school quarterback. And he actually said he was going. So I was like, you know what? If he can get in, I know I can get in. We played together. We're in the same classes. Why not? And I just went on a whim. I didn't know anything, brother. And so, but God had my hand right there. And it's just been an awesome trip since then. You know, I walk on LSU. We won a national championship my freshman year. And then I tear my ACL the next year.
Whoa.
And so I was able to the highs and the lows back to back. And, you know, one of my favorite scriptures is Proverbs 16:9. A man's heart plans his course, but the Lord determines his steps. And to me, that's everything, because in my heart, I knew where I was going. I knew I was going to go play D1. I knew I was going to make it to the league, and you couldn't tell me nothing. And when I look back at how naive and ridiculous that is, but I actually made those things happen. Not how I seen happen, you know, but the Lord had to kind of change a couple things.
Oh, he did.
He made sure I got into life. He made sure I was in FCA in high school as well as in college. I helped build some of that program up and invite people every Tuesday, Wednesday nights. And those things started to kind of mold the mindset as well as the personal wants and desires. And so I didn't know what exactly was happening, because I was still holding on to what I wanted in my heart, which is making it to the league. And that's different for everybody. I wasn't very specific. And so I just encourage people, one, if you're going to ask God for something, you need to make sure you know what you're asking for.
That's right.
You need to make sure alignment for your God-given assignment, not just something you want, but sometimes he'll give you what you've been asking for just so you can taste it. And so I do my NFL Pro Day. I was also making sure I graduated in 4 years. I was taking some capstone classes for mass communications, broadcast journalism. And so this wasn't some little basket weaving classroom. This is it was pretty intense. And I did not have a personal trainer. I wasn't out getting thousands of dollars to go train and live somewhere and get a free car and work out. I was doing it all on my own. And so I had to be 3 places at once a lot of times. And so I'm proud of whatever little bit of numbers I put up, but it just wasn't good enough. I was always a step or two behind what they consider as good enough. And so because of that opportunity, I didn't get picked up, didn't get drafted, and I just wasn't really focused on IFL or AFL or Canadian League or NFL Europe or any of those things. I just wanted to make it to the NFL. And so being that student athlete on campus, that allowed me to actually work at the NCAA, learn the business side of sports, see how awesome sports can be, but also understand, a lot of people do not like the NCAA, nor do they like what it stands for. I'm glad they're starting to make a turn and give athletes an opportunity to, make good on the money that they should be getting, because that's their likeness. And I don't care what school you are, that's their likeness, and they worked hard to get there. Yes, you gave them an opportunity, but they also gave you their body, their blood, their sweat, their tears, and their sacrifices. And so you can't just pay a kid a couple T-shirts and some shoes and say, thank you for your services after 4 years. Because I realized after 4 years, I still have 3 rings to show for it. But how many hundreds of thousands of student athletes didn't get to win a national championship? You know what I'm saying? Or an SEC championship. And so those things help me create conversations and give me opportunity. But, to have the opportunity to go ahead and market for yourself and get sponsorships, that's lifelong. And so I'm glad the NCAA is, giving kids an opportunity to do that in the next year or two.
Mm-hmm. But, you said something earlier, and you said that you could be specific when you ask golf for something. But you actually did make it to the league. You were working for the Dolphins, the Miami Dolphins, when I met you.
So when I said make it to the league, I had envisioned getting drafted, top 3 rounds, 1, 2, or 3, having my family and friends there, having a big draft party. I'm on TV shaking hands, daps and hugs, getting that jersey in the mail, flying out private jet, and celebrating, right? That's making it to the league. I did not expect to be driving down to Miami as a grad student, viciously, hungrily, desperately looking for a job and landing one with the Miami Dolphins in sales and marketing. That was not what I had expected. But in the grand scheme of things, God loves you. He has a sense of humor. Mm-hmm. And if you're not specific, he's just going to give you what you ask for. So I said, hey, I want to make it to the league, and that's it. I knew I wanted to live in Miami after doing my master's at UCF in Orlando. And I go down there on a whim, and, lo and behold, volunteering and having some connections on Facebook, a guy gave me an opportunity. He was like, if you can be here in 30 minutes, I'll let you, we'll have an interview. Man, I've never driven so fast in my life. So I made the interview, got in there, crushed it. Me and the guy had a lot of things in common. His sister's name was also Tori, and he was a walk-on student athlete at one point in his life as well. And we just hit it off, and I closed the deal and got a job and moved to Miami in a weekend. And my, that's when all my mistakes started. That's when God really started showing up in my life after I made a decision to chase after these man-made dreams.
Mm-hmm. When I met you, we were doing an FCA event at a high school, and I remember looking over at you. You had on all this purple and gold. I said, well, that's a cute dog over there. But that was your LSU stuff. But you know what? I got a guy on the line. I'm finna blend you with another. I got a guy on the line also from Miami, Hialeah. Let's welcome to the locker room, Luis Perez. Luis, you there?
Yeah, how's it going, Darren? What's up, guys?
Good. Luis, I want you to introduce you to Orlando Gunn. Orlando, I met him in Miami. He was, like you said, he was doing a lot down there. But Luis right now used to be the voice of FIU baseball, St. Thomas University, Southeastern, the Orlando City Soccer. He is now the voice of the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yeah, Yeah, man, it's been a crazy journey. You were around for the I wouldn't say the genesis of it all, but you were around for like a good amount of that that hungry youngster, if you will.
Yeah, you know,
so,
you and I.
Kind of cool to blend this all together now.
Yeah, you and I. You were the PA announcer at Florida Christian School, and I was doing the play-by-play on the video stream, and that's how you and I got your voice and my voice were the voices of Miami in high school sports back in those days.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's cool. It's cool to put this all full circle. I actually interned with the Miami Dolphins in the marketing department.
Wait a minute, you don't know Orlando?
Yeah, so this was my sophomore year of college. So I'm gonna have to ask you, what years were you with the Dolphins? Because we probably were in the same office at the same time.
So Lewis, I'm gonna take a bet that you and Mr. Darryl are probably a little older than me, but
or much older than you.
I will say I ended up coming down there about 2013, 2014, 2015. And so when I locked up my gig, I was, it was probably a little early or later after you. So it was when the Dolphins were handling a lot of the bullying scandals that had took place, changing the colors and the logo and stuff like that. Okay. So that's when I had the opportunity to walk out there.
Gotcha. Yeah, mine was actually 2009. Not too off, but it was a couple years off.
Yeah. And man, I mean, the voice of sports, both of y'all, that's pretty awesome.
But you know what's crazy?
Everybody remembers their announcement.
Yeah, it's crazy because I auditioned. I saw a picture, Lewis, of you on the Jumbotron at the American Airlines Arena with the what's the PA guy there name?
Michael Amonte.
Yeah, Michael. You know how he got that job? When the Miami Heat's first year, I went to the arena and they had an audition for the PA announcer. Mike was sitting right next to me. They gave me a script. I had to read this script, and my script said something about Lon Kruger was the head coach of the University of Florida Gators. I had to read this thing, and then right after me, Mike came up, and he won. He's still the announcer. You hear him now, dos monitos, all that Spanish he be speaking at the Heat game. So it's crazy how all of us were in Miami almost doing the same thing, almost around the same time, and how our lives, just intertwine. It's crazy. But
Hey, but I'm gonna tell you this, man. Mike has been an amazing friend to me. That's like Didi Gregorius, coming right after Derek Jeter. Yeah, you're awesome, but man, you're talking about a legend right here, Mike Diamante. This guy's been great to me. He obviously has FIU ties. He does FIU football, and I got to be his backup. Still to this day, very much his backup. But obviously, to be with the Globetrotters, I'm a little away from Miami during the NBA season. But right about now, I'm not actually. I'm in Miami due to all this, but being able to back him up and do a couple games and get that under my belt, it's crazy how doing 2 Heat games has given me enough Rio to just expand my horizons,
Mm-hmm. But God is good, man, because I remember meeting you at Florida Christian, and you were a guy who everybody liked because of your voice and because of your inflection of how you broadcast, and then I also meet Orlando. He's ministering to kids. He was doing a Bible study with youth ministry, and I was like, when I put this show together, I had no idea how it was going to intertwine. But Orlando, I thank you for your call, and we're going to talk later because I want to come on your podcast, and we'll talk later, bro. Thank you for your call.
Hey, thank y'all very much.
Right.
Lewis, congratulations, brother. And I appreciate both of y'all. God bless.
All righty. So, Lewis, tell me.
Orlando, take it easy, bro.
Lewis, tell me what happened. How did you get with the Globetrotters, bro? How that happen?
So if you don't mind, I'm going to rewind just a little bit past that, before that, and it's all going to kind of make sense. All right, so at this time, I was working for Orlando City, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest with you, at that point in my life, I was like, man, I am ready. I'm ready to commit to the city of Orlando, be the announcer for the Orlando City and the Orlando Pride, the MLS and the Women's League that they have there. And in the short time I was there, I feel like it was the right time, perfect timing for a lot of things that were happening in Orlando. They got the MLS All-Star Game bid I was able to be their announcer. I replaced a guy named Paco Lopez who took a gig in Las Vegas, who's amazing at doing this. And, I ran into the whole problem of they liked him, they loved him, and I came in, and, it was kind of like that, like I told you, like that Didi Gregorius coming in for Derek Jeter. You're great, but you're not him, So I got into a situation like that. And but as time went by, we got more and more support. And I'm like, all right, man, I'm comfortable here in the city of Orlando. People are warming up to the idea of me. It even got to the point where the Team USA, the men's soccer team, played in Orlando, and they asked for me to do it. I was like, darn, like, here we go. Like, this is pretty, we're getting somewhere now.
Mm-hmm.
And but at the end of the day, as much as I love doing soccer, and I really do, and I love the passion of the fans and whatnot, I knew in my heart that I'm a baseball guy, basketball guy. Like those are the two sports that are my traits at the end of the day. Not to say I can't do others, but here comes the Globetrotter job. It just popped up on my screen. I signed myself up for job alerts and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, all right. I saw it, came across. I'm like, that's kind of cool. Put my application in, send my resume. Their guy, Zoli. Zoli is my boss over there. Zoli, you remember the Phoenix Suns mascot back in the day?
Right.
The gorilla?
Your
that
gorilla
that would do crazy stuff?
Mm-hmm.
That's him.
That's him?
He is my boss.
What?
Yeah. So he since he's retired from his mascot duties, he's actually a Hall of Famer, like a Hall of Fame mascot.
Wow.
He got a job running the production for the Harlem Globetrotters. Been there for a couple years. He calls me up. He flies me over to Atlanta, where that's their main hub now. They have their training camp and all that stuff there. Flies me to Atlanta. I had to be one of hundreds of applicants, and I think they saw that day alone. They saw about 8 faces, and they said that they've done it like for a whole week. I'm like, oh man. At this point, I'm like, all right, I got a free trip to Atlanta. Let me just think, I'll just have some fun out up here for the day that I'm here. I get back. I had a class that next day, 10 o'clock in the morning at FIU. And before I got to my class, I parked in the parking lot, which is a process within itself. I get there, and I get a phone call, and sure enough, they offer it to me, and I was like, man, I said yes, and then as soon as I said yes, I go, holy crap, you have to break up with Orlando City.
Yes, sir.
And that's how I got there, and you always, and I'm sure this happened in your career a million times. You always ask yourself, what if you would have stayed here as opposed to staying there and staying here? And I couldn't go against this type of gig at all.
You're world famous, man. Harlem Globetrotters are world famous. Okay, now let me ask you a couple of quick questions before we go to the break. How many cities did you see this year? Because I was following you every week. You guys, every week you somewhere.
I counted. I stopped at 102. We were supposed to actually make it to the 113 mark, but obviously we got cut short here. I was supposed to go to Washington, D.C. towards the end there. The last major city I got to go to was New Orleans, and after that it kind of just all went to shambles with the whole COVID-19. But, yeah, it was 101 we tapped out on.
When you guys went to through North Carolina, actually the University of South Carolina, I had a friend in that area who was going through something. She had lost her son in the service, and I connected you with Melody. And tell me about that night when Melody and her kids came to the game. I know you guys do some great stuff with the kids.
Yeah, man, and that's another thing. And I didn't initially know that that was gonna be such an important part of the role there. I selfishly thought to myself, okay, I'm gonna go and see the world, which I get to do, but I get to see people as well and these stories that come across. And so Melody, you introduced me to Melody, and she unfortunately was going through the trauma of obviously losing her son, and the family was as well. And we brought him out to a game, and this is just one of millions of stories. Like you just don't know what people are going through.
Know.
This one was a particular scenario.
Mm-hmm.
This was a particular scenario in which we did know what she was going through, and we tried our best to roll out the red carpet. Make them forget at least for a capsule of 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Put a Band-Aid on what's a huge flesh wound. But yeah, they were out there. They had a great time. A lot of hugs. The kids were happy to meet all the players and the coach. It was just a great time. It was an awesome time, and especially doing it for somebody. We do it for a lot of people, and we don't really know the people. But when you do it for someone whose family, it's like that. Okay, so if you're telling me, Daryl, that you want me to take care of this scenario, I got you, and that just made it go full circle a lot better.
Okay, all right. I got 30 seconds before I go to break. I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to give you time to think about it because it's going to be difficult for you to calculate this. What's the all-time record for the Harlem Globetrotters?
Oh, man. I tell you what, I know there's a lot more to the left side on the win column than there is on the right side.
So sometimes them generals come to play, huh?
Yeah, but we haven't lost to the Generals since 1971. So there's a lot more W's now.
So you haven't lost since 1971. Okay, I tell you what, I got to go to break. I thank you for your call, bro. And we'll be talking the next time the Harlem Globetrotters get going again. I got to catch you guys. You're listening to the Locker Room on Joy 106.3.
WAIGLP, Daytona Beach, Joy 106.3.
44 inside your radio. And, since I've been on the air since January, I've had a lot of my mentors and mentees on the station and on the show. But my next guest. This guy really inspired me from a distance. I've known him for quite a long time, working in the MEAC and working with Black College football. He's a guy who's on 30 different markets from box to row. Mr. Donald Ware, you're in the locker room. How you doing, sir?
Hey, look, there. I know we've been trying to get this done, and I'm glad to finally be in the locker room. Congratulations to you, man, on your show.
I appreciate it, man. Like I was saying, man, I sat back and I've been listening to your show, and I watch you, and I also watch Mark Gray. Things you guys have done. I went from a sideline analyst now to doing some of the things that you're doing. I appreciate you, bro.
No problem. And yeah, no, I know we go back to long time, man. Back to like you said. Maybe going back some 10 years ago. I know you were doing, I guess, at least at one time, sideline for Bethune-Cookman. Mm-hmm. So, we go back quite some way.
Let's talk a little bit about Box to Row, man. A lot of great things with that station. You're on what, XM? Sirius XM?
Yeah. Yep. So, a couple of Sirius XM channels, and then, as you mentioned, radio stations all across the country, including right there in Daytona Beach. And it's really been a lot of it has really been a labor of love. This is our 15th year, so pretty excited about that. Started with 5 radio stations back when we launched on August 20th of 2005. We were on in Baltimore, and we were on in Greensboro, North Carolina, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, here in Raleigh, and then Birmingham, Alabama. Went back like 6 months later, ran out of money, went back to like one station, WAUG, which still carries the show out of Raleigh, and then started to build our stations back up. One of the first stations and one of the first carriers was right there, Bethune-Cookman's now station, ELE. Mike Johnson brought the program on back in 2006, and it's pretty much been on ever since. So pretty excited about where the show has come from.
I was confused because I met Mark Gray at Morgan State, and then you're a Morgan State guy, but I met you at North Carolina A&T, so I was like, wait a minute, blue and orange, blue and gold. But I always sat back and I listened because everybody's into the Stephen A. Smith stuff, but you guys have done some excellent work on the airways.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Like I said, it's a really a labor of love, and really starting it, really wanting to, as a sports talk radio fan, really wanting to hear more HBCU sports talk, which I wasn't hearing. I grew up in the Washington area listening to a local show there called Sports Call with Ken Beatrice. Really liked Jim Rome. Mm-hmm. Tony Kornheiser's like the first one I can remember that was like nationally syndicated. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but none of them talking about HBCU sports, so that's why we started the program.
But guess what? They call you the Black John Madden, because you used to have a video game called BCFX. It was a HBCU video game, and guess who was the voice? You.
Yeah, it's interesting. I did the color comment. I did the color commentary for that. That was back like they first came out with a like 2008, it was a PC game, and then ultimately they came out with it on Xbox 360. And the plan originally was not to put the voices in, but they managed to do it at the last moment, and it was, I mean, it was, it was great. I mean, and thus the name, the John Madden of Black College Football. Yeah.
Okay. Now you've worked a lot of places. You worked at North Carolina Central. You worked at Shaw, Winston-Salem, Fayetteville. Now you're the play-by-play guy at North Carolina A&T. The day you were supposed to come on the show, A&T made a big announcement. What was that announcement?
Oh, right. Yeah. I couldn't remember what the reason was. I really wanted to be on. So the A&T announced that it's going to move to the Big South Conference, which is a huge move. Really sent shockwaves through the HBCU world. I mean, not only in the MEAC, but throughout HBCU. I mean, I heard from people from the SWAC, and a lot of it. It didn't really sit well with a lot of people. I either heard, we'll wait and see, or I heard, I don't like the move from A&T alums and other people in the HBCU world. A&T is the largest HBCU. I think that ultimately this will be a good move. We'll ultimately have to wait and see how things play out. But A&T really thinking outside of the box, and of course athletics is generally a marketing tool for universities. So I think this is definitely a play in the marketing direction. Plus, as the AD has said, it's more about the student athletes' welfare, less travel and those type of things for A&T. They don't have to travel as far coming to, like Bethune-Cookman's the furthest, south in the MEAC and so forth. So they won't have, especially for the non-revenue sports, they won't have as much travel for the student athletes.
A&T programs have been very, very strong the last few years. There was a time when the football team was down. I think they had like a 20-something game losing streak at one time. But I remember the time when Maurice Hicks and those guys were playing. That's when A&T began to play good football.
It's interesting you mentioned that because I was actually SID at A&T starting in '99, and then we had it was Maurice Smith who ultimately went on to play in the National Football. I can't remember if he may have gotten drafted in the 2000 draft, and then Maurice Hicks came, as you mentioned, the next year, and I conversed with him the other day. On his first game, it was against North Carolina Central, that annual Aggie Eagle Classic. He had like 6 carries for 20 yards. Very non-memorable game. But then, like, midway through the season, he just busted out, started having these 200-yard games and so forth.
He was incredible back.
And it was. He really was. And, that 99 season was Black College National Championship season. 2000, bad loss to Howard in D.C. Otherwise, A&T would have maybe won the MEAC and been back at the championship. I think Bethune-Cookman won it in 2000, I think.
Yeah, they did.
Some good times and some good players that have definitely come through A&T.
Okay, let's test your sports skills. Since you're on the radio and you know a little bit about sports, let's see. You're a Washington Redskins fan, right?
Oh, you know it. You know that.
We're in the same division because I'm one of them. I'm one of them boys. You see what I'm saying?
Oh Lord.
Okay, quickly, let's look at the NFL draft last week. Let's look at our division. Let's talk about what the Redskins did. I know you guys traded away your offensive lineman.
Yeah, finally got rid of Trent Williams. I mean, I'm not mad at the Redskins for that. I think he's a really good player. He hasn't played in 2 years. Had a disagreement with the team. The team stood pat. And hey, I'm not mad. I think we could have got more for him, but they got what they got. I think 5th rounder this year, and then maybe a second. I think it's a 3rd rounder next year. So that's fine. But obviously, I love the pick. The Chase pick. I mean, that's a big time pick. Chase Young's going to be a game changer.
Excellent kid.
Yeah. We've never been able to replace and never will replace Sean Taylor. But I think a guy like this can have an impact, not a similar impact, but he's going to have definitely an impact on the defense, loaded on the defensive line. Getting a running back the next time around, then getting that offensive lineman, the Charles kid, I think is going to be big for the Skins as well.
Okay, let's look at my Cowboys. We got C.D. Lamb. We got some defensive back help. We got some O-line help, too.
Yeah, listen, I hate to say this as a Redskins fan, but I think the Cowboys are the team right now. If you look on paper, particularly with the coach, the caliber of the coach you have, it's the team to beat. CeeDee Lamb's going to be a game. He's going to be a game changer.
And he's
man.
wearing
That's a
88.
Big time pickup.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's wearing He's wearing the famed 88, going back to the
Drew
Pearson days.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So, I hate to say it as a Redskins fan, but right now, I think you'd have to say on paper, I love the season that Dak had last year. I was not a believer coming into last season. I believe you needed to sign Ezekiel Elliott to make Dak better, but I thought, and Elliott was solid last year, but Dak really stepped up. I like your draft pick, especially the CeeDee Lamb kid.
Okay, let's go to the Eagles, because I got a question for you. You know, they got Jalen Hurts, and ESPN said this, and I don't agree with them. I want to hear your take on this. They call him a gadget quarterback. They got a gadget quarterback, man. This kid could play.
No, I mean, if you've seen him, like, you look at his time at Alabama, and maybe the national championship year when it was his year. I mean, maybe you can look at some other elements at how good Alabama was and so forth. But you can see that this kid can play, especially you're talking about a kid that had to come from one system and one conference to a whole nother system in a whole nother conference and had so much success last year, not just running the football, throwing the football. This kid can play. I mean, I don't look at him as a gadget quarterback at all. I think ultimately he is going to be a good quarterback in the National Football League.
Okay, let's skip over to another division. What's going on at Green Bay, man? You think of some rumblings going on there with the coach and with the quarterback, Mr. State Farm himself?
Yeah, no, and it's not. It's to me. I know some liken it to, and it's interesting because when we first came on the air back in 2005, a lot of what we were talking about was Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. It's not akin to that to me because. Aaron Rodgers is not towards the end of not that Brett Favre was, but Aaron Rodgers has many more years left to play. I think Aaron Rodgers has handled it obviously a lot better than did Brett Favre. I think ultimately Green Bay is looking at its future because one day Aaron Rodgers will not be able to play anymore. He could also get injured. Who knows? So I think they're just looking at their future. I don't think there's any real controversy there, at least in my opinion.
Okay, let's go to the AFC, and here's something controversial. Let's see how you handle this one. The New England Patriots, they drafted a kicker that has a tattoo of a prominent white supremacist symbol. But then Colin Kaepernick is banned from the league for protesting racism. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't – my thing on Colin, and I've said this on my show, I just, if he were someone else that had a better skill set, and I'm not going, it's not about, the political side of things. If he had I just don't think he's that good. If he was that good, even if he was making the stance that he made, I think he'd be in the National Football League. That said, it's unfortunate that this young guy, this kicker, has the tattoo that he has. I don't know. Really, I hadn't seen it, to be honest with you. I don't know that much about it. I've heard about it, but, I think that's certainly an unfortunate situation for him to even have something like that.
Okay, let's go back over to the American Conference again. Mr. Brady and Mr. Gronk, now in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, that's big time. That's big time because you already had, I think, a good receiver situation in Tampa. I hate what ultimately has happened to Jameis Winston. I'm one of those that believe that he's got some game. You can look at the last couple of years. Yeah, he struggled, but even last year, throw over 5,000 yards, 33 touchdowns. That's pretty good. You look at his first couple of years in the league, he was pretty good. So he can play. But that said, he's got Brady has a great receiver core. They got a good defense there in Tampa, and you add Gronk to that, they become instant contenders in the NFC.
Okay, I got 30 seconds left. Okay, we're looking at the pandemic, looking at the league possibly starting on time, and if we do, what team you see rising to the top again? Kansas City is tough.
Yeah, it's hard to go against Kansas City right now. But San Francisco, is going to be good, but it's hard to go against Kansas City. Defending Super Bowl champs. What they were able to accomplish last year was absolutely fantastic, and really, if I had to say right now who I think is going to be back or win the Super Bowl, I mean, I cannot go against the Chiefs.
Okay, last thing, I want to give you a tip that you probably didn't know. I'm going to ask you a quick question. How old were you when you were the SID at North Carolina A&T?
I was 25 years old.
Okay, so I still have the record. You know, I was the SID at the age of 21 at Bethune-Cookman University. At one time, I was the youngest SID in the nation. And Mr. Barber, who was the commissioner at the MEAC, had to call me each week and teach me the things that I needed to know.
I did not know you were the SID.
Yeah, man.
That is very cool. I didn't know that.
I was the youngest SID in the nation back in 1981, I think. Youngest SID in the nation. I tell you what, I appreciate your call, man. I'm going to be listening in to the station today. I thank you for calling. I'm out of time, but I'm definitely not out of sports. You're listening to the Locker Room.
We're out of time, but we're definitely not out of sports. Join me next Friday here on Joy 106.3. If you want to contact the Locker Room, you can email me at thelockerroom@gmail.com. See you next week.